Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss A Scanner Darkly, starring Keanu Reeves, Rory Corcoran, Robert Downey Jr., Woody Harrelson, and Winona Ryder, directed by Richard Linklater. Now, before I get into this movie, I must say I have seen this before, but for a good reason. Because I'm a big fan of Richard Linklater, as I really like his movies, as some of them I saw. What this reminded me the most of when I saw the trailer for this was his previous animated film, Waking Life, which I'll get to at some point in my life, as it's a really good movie. But is this as good as that movie? Let's get into it and we'll find out. We open in Anaheim, California, where Charles Frick, played by Rory Cochrane, has bugs all over his body and showers himself and his dog and sprays bug spray all over. And I get the impression the man is on drugs, as he calls James Barris, played by Robert Downey Jr., and before he was ever Iron Man, and tells him he needs his help as they meet him at 3 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, in a police station, a scramble suit called the Big Blur is talking about stopping the drugs, and who happens to be in there is Fred, played by Keanu Reeves, as the suit does look good, and so does the animation, but it's not quite as unique as Waking Life, and the performances are good, but again, not as great as Waking Life in my opinion. Charles is on the way to meet with James in a diner, and Charles is being rude to the waitress while James is fantasizing her naked. And Robert Downey Jr., despite this was before Iron Man, he still acts like Tony Stark, while Rory Cochrane does a good job with his performance, while Bob calls Donna Hawthorne, played by Winona Ryder, and Bob is also played by Keanu Reeves, if you can believe it. As we, the audience, sees Bob as has committed a crime while the caller trace doesn't authorize his arrest, and we fast forward to Charles and James going to James's place while the movie tells the story of criminals. And I really do like the story, as director Richard Linklater does a good job of the use of this animation. James visits Bob Arctor, who I brought up earlier, played also by Keanu Reeves, Donna, who's his girlfriend, and another character we meet named Ernie Luckman, played by Woody Harrelson, with a bicycle he bought for $50, who I really love in this movie, as he's hysterical, and he's always great in the movies. Fred comes in the doctor's office and gets tested, as I get the impression he's a nervous wreck, as he flips out on the doctors, which was an interesting scene. Fred goes to his boss Hank's office and sees James telling some evidence to Fred and Hank while being interrogated, and James is afraid to get an officer involved, as he thinks he'll get murdered, which is rather interesting and good acting by Keanu Reeves and Robert Downey Jr., as well as the actor playing Hank. Bob drives James and Ernie to San Diego while going too fast, too furious, as it turns out the car gas is destroyed and the linkage falls apart, or yeah, something like that, as Bob has the tools back at the house, and Bob gets pissed off as they picked up a tow truck. And I like the location of where the movie is shot, which is in Orange County, California, as I'm very familiar with it, while James wires up Bob's house, and they stop by the place to find if any crooked people are in the house, and a cigarette is still hot, so they're led to believe someone was in the house, and they see the house is bugged, and we see Donna was home the entire time, and that was a suspenseful scene, and we learn the cops are bugging up the house, and I like how suspenseful that scene really was. Charles comes by, and James and Ernie almost start fighting each other, and Charles starts to run away as he's afraid of the place. The place is not safe, and they're getting fucked up. And the next thing you know, Bob sees James and Ernie as cockroaches, while Fred watches, which was a strange scene, as does this movie have an obsession of bugs. That's what it feels like, which is an interesting choice by Richard Linklater. Ernie starts to have a reaction as he's on the ground, and James calls for paramedics, until Ernie wakes up and they argue with one another while Fred watches them. And we see Charles mixing pills up with alcohol and sees something rather too bizarre, as this was a bizarre scene in my opinion. Bob takes a walk as Donna picks him up and tells him how much she doesn't like James because when he acts crazy, Bob acts crazy, and they go to her place and she doesn't want to hug because she snorts a lot of cocaine, and he walks out and she wants to go up north to get away, which is a nice scene as Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder act well together. Bob gives drugs to a woman and wakes up the next day as they're in bed together, and he's pissed about it as the movie is made rather good, but it's not as well made as Waking Life, in my opinion, anyways. Fred wakes up and gets a call from the doctors as he has to go to them again and takes some more tests and leaves the office for the day. And we learn Bob works for the cops, as I also think as Fred is Bob, as I did this entire movie, which made it a little obvious. James goes to the cops again to give the evidence to them, as it is false evidence. They put him in jail, as Hank doesn't believe him and tells Fred he's gone bonkers, as he takes the same drug as Bob would, as Fred does go crazy over a fucking cigarette, as he tells Hanks he's Bob Arthur, which wasn't that so goddamn obvious? As Hank calls Donna and asks her to pick him up in 5 minutes, as she was the one playing Hank the entire time, as she drives him to the doctor's office, and Donna leaves Bob as he's in the mental hospital, as he gets transferred to a farm where he works with the plants and is being called Bruce. And I thought, what the fuck is going on here? While Donna's name is Audrey, as Bruce sees blue flowers and says he saw death is coming, this climax is a total mind fuck. And I couldn't believe what the fuck was happening by the end of the day. And what the hell are their names? Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 7.0 out of 10. The movie is interesting as the performances are pretty good. It's not a good, but it's a good made movie. Not as well made as the movie as Waking Life, as this movie isn't as good as Waking Life in my opinion. I did rather find obvious the entire time that the Keanu Reeves character is one person as a cop and a crook, as it felt bizarre. The director, Richard Linklater, did a good job with the animation style, as this isn't as well animated as Waking Life, as that's a much better movie than this in my professional opinion, I'll say. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Next, starring Nicolas Cage. And until then, get your ass to Mars.